The city hummed a sleepy tune as Evan stepped out of the taxi, the late hour draping everything in a soft, inky blanket. He clutched the invitation in his hand, feeling a strange mix of excitement and unease. The Nocturne Gallery, it read, promising a rare glimpse into art under the cloak of night. Evan wasn't usually one for exclusive events, especially not at this hour. His usual evenings involved quiet books and warm tea, not hushed hallways and hushed whispers. But something about this particular exhibit had called to him, a silent invitation he couldn't ignore. As he pushed open the heavy oak doors, a different kind of quiet settled over him. It wasn't the silence of an empty room, but a respectful hush, as if the very air understood the importance of the art within. The soft glow of strategically placed lights illuminated ancient canvases and modern sculptures, making shadows dance in intriguing ways. Evan felt a bit like an intruder, his everyday worries suddenly seeming too loud in this sacred space. Yet he also felt a deep pull, a magnetic force drawing him further into the unique, almost magical atmosphere of the late-night exhibit. Evan let the heavy door swing shut behind him, the soft click echoing slightly in the grand entrance hall. He took a deep breath, the air smelling faintly of old paper and something floral, yet not sweet. He began to walk, his footsteps barely audible on the smooth marble floor. Room after room unfolded before him, each filled with paintings and sculptures that seemed to glow in the dim light. He noticed he was almost entirely alone. Here and there, a shadow might stir, or a distant cough might break the quiet. But for the most part, Evan had the entire gallery to himself. This was different from bustling daytime visits. There were no crowds, no chatter, no rush to see everything. He could stand for as long as he liked in front of a piece, letting its colors and shapes sink into him. A peaceful loneliness settled over him, a feeling that was surprisingly comforting. It was as if the art was just for him, sharing its secrets in the quietest hours. This sense of being a solitary viewer made the experience feel more personal, more profound. He wandered slowly, allowing himself to get lost in the beauty, each piece whispering its own story in the stillness of the night. Evan drifted from one masterpiece to another, his mind a quiet hum of wonder. He didn't notice the eyes that followed him from a discreet distance. Adrian, the gallery's curator, stood partly hidden behind a tall, dark sculpture, a faint smile playing on his lips. Adrian knew Evan. Not personally, of course, but he recognized the quiet man who appeared at these late-night showings every few months. Evan was never loud, never rushed. He simply absorbed the art, lingering in front of pieces that most other visitors walked right past. Adrian found himself intrigued by Evan's silent appreciation. He was a familiar, welcome face in the otherwise unpredictable stream of nocturnal guests. Tonight, Adrian had made a point to be there, sensing something different about Evan's presence. There was a new depth to his gaze, a slightly more intense stillness as he moved from room to room. Adrian watched as Evan paused longer before a vibrant abstract, then moved to a serene landscape. He was like a quiet shadow, always present, always observing. Adrian's gaze sharpened, a thought forming in his mind. Perhaps tonight would be different. Perhaps tonight he would finally speak to the quiet observer. Evan's slow journey through the gallery brought him to a large, unadorned wall in a quieter corner. There, hanging alone, was a painting that instantly stole his breath. It was a vast canvas, filled with swirling blues and deep purples, broken by streaks of silver that looked like distant stars or shimmering water. The title plaque was simple, Nocturne's Embrace. He stopped, mesmerized. The painting wasn't just colors. It was a feeling, a memory, almost, of something he couldn't quite name. It felt ancient and new all at once, full of secrets and silent promises. Evan found himself leaning closer, his gaze tracing the delicate lines and powerful strokes. He felt a strong, almost magnetic pull to its mysterious beauty. It was as if the painting was looking back at him, understanding something deep within his own quiet nature. This piece wasn't just captivating. It felt personal, a reflection of the peaceful loneliness he'd embraced tonight. He forgot everything else, lost in the depths of its swirling beauty, completely unaware that he was no longer alone. Evan stood lost in the painting, his mind tracing the silver streaks that seemed to breathe with a life of their own. He was so deeply focused that the world outside the canvas faded into a soft blur. Yet, a subtle shift in the air, a tiny disturbance in the profound quiet, slowly pricked at his awareness. It wasn't a sound, not really, but more like a gentle pressure, a change in the space around him. He didn't turn, but a faint tingle, like static electricity, ran up his arms. He knew, without seeing, that someone was approaching. Adrian, having left his hiding spot, moved with a quiet grace that almost defied sound. His shoes, soft and well-worn, made no noise on the polished floor. Each step was deliberate, measured, closing the distance between them. Adrian watched Evan's still form, his silent appreciation for the painting mirroring his own. As Adrian drew nearer, Evan felt that prickle grow stronger, a curious anticipation blossoming in his chest. The peaceful loneliness he had enjoyed earlier was now mixed with a new, exciting nervousness. He wondered who it was and what they wanted. The subtle prickle of awareness intensified, not sharply, but like a slow tide rising. Evan's breath hitched just a little, though he didn't move. He could feel it now, a distinct warmth spreading behind him, a human presence that was suddenly very close. Adrian had stopped. He was directly behind Evan, so near that Evan could almost feel the fabric of his clothes, the soft brush of air as Adrian breathed. It wasn't threatening, not exactly, but it was certainly startling. In a vast, quiet gallery, to have someone approach with such stealth and then stand so intimately close was unsettling. Evan's shoulders tensed slightly, his focus on the painting momentarily broken by the sudden, undeniable nearness of another person. He could feel the faint rise and fall of Adrian's chest, the subtle shift of weight. The air around him seemed to thicken, filled with the warmth radiating from the man behind him. It was a strange, powerful sensation, a blend of surprise and a curious, almost eager, tension. Evan waited, his heart giving a small, quick beat against his ribs, wondering what would happen next. Evan's breath was shallow, his body held still by the unexpected closeness. He could almost feel the other man's breath on the back of his neck, a sensation that made a shiver run down his spine. Then a voice, soft and low, barely above a whisper, spoke directly into the quiet space between them. "What do you see in it?" Adrian asked, his words a gentle puff of air against Evan's ear. The sound, so unexpected and so incredibly near, made Evan jump internally. He froze, his muscles locking up in surprise. He hadn't heard anyone approach, hadn't expected anyone to speak, especially not like this. The question, delivered with such quiet intimacy, felt like a secret shared, a direct path into his thoughts. His mind, which had been so clear just moments before, now felt like a jumble of startled feelings. He couldn't form a response right away. The closeness, the whisper, the suddenness of it all held him captive, a deer caught in a gentle but firm spotlight. He was completely frozen in place, unable to move, unable to speak, only acutely aware of the voice and the person behind him. Still frozen, Evan's senses sharpened to the world around him. Beyond the shock of the whispered words, another detail now filled the small space between them. It was a scent, faint at first, then growing stronger as he tried to process everything. Not flowery like the gallery's general air, but something deeper, richer. It was a subtle, elegant perfume, a mix of wood and spice, with a hint of something fresh, like a crisp autumn leaf. The fragrance wasn't heavy or overpowering. Instead, it was perfectly balanced, hinting at careful choice and quiet luxury. It enveloped Evan, mixing with the warmth of Adrian's presence and the soft sound of his breath. This new detail made the moment even more intense, wrapping around him like a silken thread. It added another layer to the unexpected encounter, a soft, invisible touch that spoke of refinement and closeness. The perfume seemed to amplify the sense of intimacy, making the quiet gallery feel suddenly very small, holding just him and the man behind him in its fragrant embrace. His mind raced, trying to put together all these new feelings. Evan remained fixed, his gaze still on the Nocturne's Embrace painting. The swirling blues and purples were now a blurry backdrop for something else. In the glass surface protecting the canvas, a reflection slowly came into focus. It was Adrian's face, positioned just over Evan's shoulder. His eyes, dark and intelligent, met Evan's own in the mirrored image. There was a depth to Adrian's gaze that Evan found both unsettling and deeply captivating. His eyes held a curious spark, as if he were trying to read Evan's very soul. But more than that, there was a knowing look, a quiet understanding that suggested Adrian had seen this reaction, this deep connection to art, many times before. It felt as though Adrian wasn't just asking about the painting, but about Evan himself. The reflection was clear, showing the slight curve of Adrian's lips, the way his brow was subtly furrowed in thought. It was a silent conversation, a powerful exchange of glances in the mirrored surface, making the air crackle with unspoken words. Evan's heart beat a little faster, caught between the painting's mystery and the curator's intriguing gaze. The reflection in the glass held Evan captive, Adrian's eyes a direct challenge to his composure. A strange mix of feelings swirled inside him. There was a faint flicker of fear, a natural reaction to such an intense, unexpected encounter. It was the kind of fear that makes your skin prickle, a quiet alarm bell ringing in the back of his mind. But mixed with that was an undeniable rush of excitement, a thrill that made his pulse quicken. It wasn't just the surprise of Adrian's presence, or the intimacy of his whisper. It was the mystery of Adrian's attention, the way his gaze seemed to penetrate Evan's carefully built quietness. Why was this man, the curator of this grand gallery, so focused on him? What did that knowing look in his eyes truly mean? This mystery was like a strong current, pulling Evan in. It was a tempting force, a silent invitation to a deeper understanding, a connection he hadn't known he craved. The fear was a thin veil, easily pierced by the sharp, sweet edge of curiosity. He felt a profound pull, a desire to unravel the unspoken questions in Adrian's reflected gaze. The silent battle of gazes in the reflection held for another heartbeat. Then Adrian spoke again. His voice was still a low whisper, but now it carried a different weight, a richness that drew Evan in. "It speaks of hidden currents, doesn't it?" Adrian murmured, his words flowing smoothly, of things seen and unseen, the deep waters beneath a calm surface. His words weren't just a question. They were a suggestion, a gentle nudge toward a deeper way of seeing the painting. Evan felt a spark of understanding, a sudden connection between Adrian's words and the swirling mystery of Nocturne's Embrace. The painting, with its blues and purples, truly did seem to hold secrets beneath its beautiful surface. Adrian's comment was like a key, unlocking a new door in Evan's mind. Evan, still caught by the closeness and the scent of Adrian's perfume, found himself slowly, almost without thinking, turning his head a fraction. He wanted to hear more, to catch every soft sound of Adrian's voice, to soak in the new meanings being offered. It was a subtle movement, but it was a clear sign of his growing interest, a silent invitation for Adrian to continue. He was leaning into the mystery, eager for more. As Evan turned his head, just a little, to better catch Adrian's words, their eyes met once more in the painting's reflection. This time, the connection felt even stronger, more direct. It was a brief moment, less than a second, but in that fleeting glance, Evan felt a powerful, unspoken understanding pass between them. It was as if Adrian saw right into him, past the quiet exterior, and recognized a kindred spirit, someone who felt the art in the same deep way. There were no words exchanged, no nods or smiles, yet the feeling was unmistakable. It was a silent agreement, a shared secret in the hushed gallery. Evan felt a warmth spread through his chest, different from the initial startled heat of Adrian's closeness. This was a warmth of recognition, of a connection forged in shared appreciation and quiet intensity. The curiosity that had been a gentle pull now felt like a magnetic force, drawing him closer to this intriguing man. He felt a sense of belonging he hadn't expected to find tonight, a feeling that made the world around them fade away even more. The unspoken connection left Evan feeling lightheaded, a delicious tremor running through him. Just as he was trying to sort through these new, intense feelings, Adrian moved again. It was a subtle shift, a mere inch or two, but it was enough. Adrian stepped even closer, making the space between them almost disappear. Evan could now feel the soft brush of Adrian's sleeve against his own, the gentle heat of his body a solid presence behind him. Evan's heart, already quickening from the shared glance, now beat a little faster, a frantic drum against his ribs. The proximity was almost overwhelming, a powerful force that made it hard to breathe normally. It wasn't just physical closeness. It was an invasion of his personal space, yet didn't feel unwelcome. Instead, it was like a daring challenge, a bold invitation to step outside his comfort zone. The scent of Adrian's elegant perfume seemed to intensify, wrapping around him like a warm, silken shroud. He felt a dizzying mix of nerves and thrill, completely aware of every inch of space, or lack thereof, between them. He was caught, held tight by Adrian's unspoken presence. Despite the sudden, almost dizzying closeness, Evan didn't feel threatened. Instead, a strange comfort settled over him. Adrian's presence wasn't forceful. It was a quiet confidence, a calm strength that radiated from him. It was the kind of confidence that didn't need to shout to be heard, that simply was. This made Evan feel surprisingly safe, as if, for this moment, nothing bad could touch him. Yet alongside this newfound feeling of safety, a subtle nervousness still fluttered in his stomach. It was the thrill of the unknown, the excitement of being so close to someone so intriguing. The quiet confidence in Adrian's manner, the way he held himself, and the deep, knowing look in his eyes, all worked together to pull Evan deeper into the moment. He was no longer just an observer of art. He was a part of this unfolding scene, drawn into Adrian's orbit. He felt a strong pull to simply be there, to let the moment wash over him, to see where this unexpected connection might lead. The gallery, the painting, the late hour, everything blended into a single, intense experience centered on the man behind him. The safe, yet nervous, feeling that Adrian's presence brought made Evan's mind buzz. He felt a strong, undeniable urge to understand why Adrian was here, standing so close, speaking to him with such quiet intensity. What was it about Evan that had caught the curator's eye, not just tonight, but at other late-night visits? This wasn't a casual encounter. Adrian's careful approach, his knowing gaze, all pointed to something more. This urge to understand wasn't a nagging question. It was a deep, powerful curiosity, one that felt like a sweet temptation. It was a desire to peel back the layers of Adrian's polite interest and find the real reason behind his attention. Evan felt drawn to the mystery of Adrian himself, a desire to know more about the man who moved with such silent grace and spoke with such intriguing words. It was like standing before a locked door, knowing that behind it lay something wonderful, and holding the key of his own willingness to engage. The thought of discovering Adrian's secrets, of being seen and understood by him, was a delicious, almost forbidden thought. The sweet temptation of Adrian's mystery hung in the air, urging Evan to speak, to ask, to engage. Before Evan could find his voice, Adrian spoke again, his whisper still soft, but now with a clearer purpose. The artist behind Nocturne's Embrace led a life as complex as his canvases, Adrian said, his voice weaving a spell. There are stories, hidden details, that deepen its power even further. Would you care to hear them? His words were an offer, an open door to the very secrets Evan found himself craving. Adrian's voice was warm, inviting, like a gentle hand extended in the dim light. It wasn't a demand, but a quiet proposal, one that recognized Evan's deep interest without him having to utter a single word. Evan felt a rush of relief and eagerness. This was exactly what he wanted: more insight, more connection, more of Adrian's focused attention. Unable to speak past the sudden tightness in his throat, Evan simply nodded slowly, a silent agreement that spoke volumes. His gaze, still on the painting, felt newly alive, ready to absorb every secret Adrian was about to share. Evan's slow nod was enough for Adrian. Without a spoken word, Adrian gently shifted, leading Evan a few steps away from the large canvas to a nearby display cabinet. It held some small, personal items belonging to the artist: a worn sketchbook, a few dried paintbrushes, and a faded photograph. As they moved, Adrian stayed incredibly close, his presence a constant, warm weight beside Evan. Their shoulders brushed lightly, a soft, accidental touch that sent another jolt through Evan. The contact was fleeting, yet it made the air around them hum with a new energy. It was a simple, natural movement, as if they had walked side by side many times before. Adrian seemed completely at ease with the closeness, his quiet confidence radiating. Evan, on the other hand, felt a delightful nervousness, his skin tingling where their shoulders had met. He was aware of every tiny detail: the rustle of Adrian's fine jacket, the subtle shift of the air as they walked. The intimacy of their shared space in the hushed gallery made the moment feel deeply personal, a secret journey guided by Adrian's intriguing knowledge. Evan was fully immersed, ready to follow Adrian's lead. With Evan still close beside him, Adrian began to speak, his voice a low, melodic murmur that seemed to weave itself into the very fabric of the hushed room. He spoke of the artist, a recluse named Elias Thorne, and the hidden meanings behind Nocturne's Embrace. Adrian revealed that the silver streaks in the painting were not just stars, but pathways, representing choices Thorne had faced in his own life. He pointed to a faint, almost invisible figure in the lower right corner, a detail Evan had completely missed. Thorne painted himself there, Adrian whispered, a silent watcher of his own destiny. Adrian's knowledge was vast and rich, filled with little-known facts and touching anecdotes. He spoke of Thorne's loves, his losses, and the quiet struggles that had shaped his art. Each story was like a thread, pulling Evan deeper into the artist's world, and by extension, into Adrian's. Evan hung on every word, completely captivated. The gallery, the time of night, even the painting itself, became secondary to the mesmerizing flow of Adrian's voice and the intriguing secrets he shared. Evan felt a sense of wonder, grateful for this unexpected window into the art and the man beside him. Adrian's voice, rich with tales of Elias Thorne, continued to weave its magic, and Evan felt himself drifting deeper into a timeless space. He had completely lost track of the minutes, the hours, the world outside the gallery, the city's sleeping hum, the very concept of time, had all faded away. There was only the low murmur of Adrian's voice, the elegant scent of his perfume, and the captivating stories of the artist. He was utterly absorbed, not just in the art, but in Adrian's presence. The curator's insights, delivered with such quiet passion and knowledge, made the paintings come alive in a way Evan had never experienced before. It was as if Adrian held the key to a secret world, and he was graciously inviting Evan to step inside. The gentle brush of their shoulders, the warmth radiating from Adrian, the shared glances and the reflections, all of it created a bubble around them, separating them from the rest of the silent gallery. Evan felt a profound sense of peace and wonder, his mind completely focused on the moment, wishing it could last forever. He had forgotten his initial nervousness, replaced by a deep, satisfying contentment. A soft chime, almost imperceptible, echoed through the gallery, a gentle reminder that the night was drawing to a close. Evan blinked, feeling a sudden pang of regret as the spell began to break. He realized, with a jolt, how much time had passed, how deeply he had been lost in Adrian's stories and presence. Adrian, sensing the shift, turned his head slightly, his gaze meeting Evan's. A small, knowing smile played on Adrian's lips, a silent acknowledgement of the shared magic of the past hour. It was a smile that held a promise, a hint of future possibilities. "The gallery will close soon," Adrian murmured, his voice still soft, but now carrying a note of gentle finality. His eyes, however, held a different message, a subtle twinkle that suggested, without words, that this wasn't truly goodbye. It was an unspoken invitation, a silent question about whether Evan would return, whether their paths might cross again. Evan felt a flutter in his chest, a mix of sadness that the moment was ending and a thrill at the thought of what might come next. The smile, the look in Adrian's eyes, left Evan with a lingering sense of anticipation. With a final, lingering look at the Nocturne's embrace, and then at Adrian, Evan felt a gentle hand on his back guiding him towards the exit. The gallery staff, quiet as shadows, were already dimming lights in other rooms. He mumbled a soft "thank you" to Adrian, who simply offered another small, knowing smile, his eyes holding that familiar curious and deep look. Stepping back into the cool night air, the city seemed louder, brighter, and somehow less real than the hushed world he'd just left. The taxi ride home was a blur. Evan's mind replayed Adrian's whispers, the gentle brush of their shoulders, the shared glances in the painting's reflection. The elegant scent of Adrian's perfume seemed to cling to his clothes, a faint reminder of the unexpected intimacy. It all lingered in his thoughts, a beautiful, slightly mysterious dream from which he wasn't quite ready to awaken. He thought of the knowing smile, the unspoken question in Adrian's eyes. A new kind of anticipation settled in Evan's heart. He knew he would be back. The art had drawn him in, but Adrian had captured his quiet imagination.